Roger that, rolling in.
Between January 17th and February 28th, 1991, the United States Air Force led one of the most precise and dominant displays of combat air assault in our nation's history. Some say this was the most successful war ever. Yet, they have often been referred to as the Chair Force. But why? The branches of the military are like one big large family. And just like every large family, there's a lot of tough, brotherly, and sisterly love. It's really hard to pinpoint when the term Chair Force started, but if I had to guess, I would say it started back in the early 1960s. This was right around the time the Air Force implemented their infamous 6.5-week basic training, becoming the military branch with the shortest boot camp. In this same time frame, the Air Force began its quest to improve the quality of life for its members. So back in the early 60s, there was this badass dude named General Curtis LeMay. He proposed a budget which focused heavily on quality of life, which no other military branch had done up until that time. This idea to improve quality of life in the Air Force wasn't just for the members, but also for their family members. Because the Air Force was so new, it still utilized a lot of hand-me-down facilities given by the Army. General LeMay not only improved the existing facilities, but he also built new ones, which provided more quality and they were more habitable for Air Force members and their family. General LeMay also understood the importance of having fun, so he focused on providing more recreational opportunities on base. So things like swimming pools, bowling alleys, and even golf courses were built on base. But more than providing comfortability, General LeMay also made it easier for airmen to get their education. This quality of life standard didn't just impact our homeland. The Air Force also strived to maintain this level of quality in deploy locations as well. Not to mention, their personnel typically deploy for a shorter time period. The Air Force's deployment philosophy is focused on providing predictable, stable, and sustainable deployments. That way, they can maintain a balance between their work and personal life. So a typical Air Force deployment can range anywhere from 120 to 180 days on average. And because the Air Force is technological in nature, only a small percentage of its personnel actually see combat. Your air crews, special warfare personnel, and security forces are the primary combatants, while all other career fields virtually exist to support aircraft and airborne missions. And most of these jobs can be done from an office while sitting in a chair, which furthers the stigma of Chair Force.
Just 2 hours ago, Allied air forces began an attack on military targets in Iraq and Kuwait. These attacks continue as I speak. Ground forces are not engaged. I've told the American people before that this will not be another Vietnam.
After Iraq invaded Kuwait, the U.S. led a stellar airlift campaign that placed more than 900,000 troops in the Arabian Peninsula for Operation Desert Shield and a build-up for Desert Storm. It was the beginning of an air campaign that would become the largest employment of U.S. air power since the war in Vietnam. On January 17, 1991, the Air Force led a 5.5-week aerial assault. The Air Force had some pretty advanced technology at this time, and this allowed them to target and destroy key enemy positions with incredible accuracy. This really helped minimize collateral damage, which was one of the staples of how successful this mission was. The Air Force also provided critical air support to ground troops, which allowed them to advance quickly and safely. You had aircraft like the A-10 Warthogs and the F-16 Fighting Falcon, which provided close air support, which means that they flew low and fired their weapons at anything that presented danger to the ground troops. This was 38 days of around-the-clock attacks. Airmen produced over hundreds of thousands of sorties. Almost everything in the war zone, from water bottles to medical care to helicopters, was shipped by the United States Air Force. These aircrafts were not only loaded, but maintained by thousands of airmen who were fueled on Ritz and Burger King. After all the damage was done, the ground troops made light work of everything else and ended the war 5 days later. An estimated 8,000 to 10,000 Iraqi forces were killed in action, compared to only 300 for the coalition forces. This will go down as one of the most dominant combat air assault missions in history, proving the Air Force was more than capable of just sitting in chairs. In 1992, the Air Force implemented a stationary bike PT test, which caused huge ridicule. This furthered the stigma of the Chair Force and almost solidified it. But thankfully, in 2004, Chief of Staff General John Jumper reinstated the 1.5-mile run in an effort to promote a warrior culture. And in 2008, the Air Force switched its basic training time from 6.5 weeks to 8.5 weeks, which provided the airmen more time to develop their warrior ethos, making the Air Force a more resilient and hardened branch. So when you hear the term Chair Force, a lot of this stems from the 20th century, which still shapes people's opinions today. But when I hear the term Chair Force, in a nutshell, to me it means a military branch others are jealous of. And if you want to learn about the process of joining the Air Force, I got a video on the screen right now that'll walk you through it. Like I always say, I hope this video brought value to you. Stay beautiful, stay classy, and until next time, check me out.